Greetings and welcome to Education and More's Learn Python 3 Programming at a Snail's Pace. My name is Marcus Gardner and I'm the instructor for this course. In today's video, lesson number 4, we're going to learn about functions and input. Now we're only going to gloss over functions. Functions are very, very important, but we're only going to look at 3 of them in this video. And we're not going to talk about how to make your own in this one, okay? That'll be for a later one. So we're just going to very high level the functions part, okay? All right. So what are functions? Functions are a set of commands that take in an input, optional, do something, and return an output, optional. Let me give you an example. In your real life, you do lots of functions, okay? For example, your mom does lots of things, okay? For example, you might ask her, tell her, I'm hungry, can I have something to eat? And she might make you breakfast. So what she'll do is that she will cook breakfast, okay? So the input was you telling her that you're hungry. And then she cooks your breakfast, that's to do something, and then she hands you your breakfast. That's the output, okay? Now, moms are very important. They do lots of things. They clean, they go to work, lots of other things, okay? Your dad's also equally important, okay? He does lots of important things too. Like he sits down, grabs the remote control, turns on the TV, watches his football game, and asks for his wife to give him a beer. Very important stuff too. Sorry, I can joke about that because I grew up in America and we watched all kinds of stereotypical programs like that. Al Bundy and The Simpsons come to mind. But anyway, maybe you don't know what those programs are. But anyway, give you some a real function. For example, in math, you might want to learn about the perimeter of a rectangle. Hopefully, you remember what a rectangle is. Its opposite sides are equal. So these two sides are equal, and these two sides are equal. And they also have right angles. And you want to know the perimeter of it. So you might call a function, and you will pass it the input, the length, and the width. So let's say the length was 5, let's just say meters, and the width was 2 meters. So your calculation to do something would be to add the 5 to the 2 and then add it to the 5 and 2 again. So that would give you 14 meters. And then you return an output, you return back the 14 meters to the user. Okay? So that's just an example of a function. Now, functions are things that have to be coded. Okay? They are not magical. If they were, I would say, computer, find me a girlfriend who will love me forever and give me 100 kids. Even if the computer could find me a loving girlfriend who would love me forever, I think they would run away in fear when they found out how many kids I want. Okay, but anyway, so functions you have to code, all right? Now you're saying, well, why does it have to be optional? I mean, why doesn't it have to be required? Well, for example, you might tell the user how to use your program. So one function might be like, say, a help, how to use the program. And the input would be nothing. You just call the function and it would just say, enter in the length and width or Q for quit. Okay? And it doesn't return anything. So that's just an example. So that's why we say the inputs and outputs are optional, but you have to do something in a function. Okay. All right. So let's go on to input. Input is a function. Now, input has already been coded for you. You don't have to code it. Okay. So we call it a built-in function. Okay. It's something that's already been programmed to do. Okay. So there are different ways to get input, but we're only going to talk about 3. Well, it's actually 1 with 2's other options, okay? So the function is called input, okay? Input, and it has parentheses and a parentheses. and you can pass it the input. Remember, the input is optional, of whatever message. Okay? And then it is going to do something that is going to receive information from the user, and then it's going to give back the information as an output. Okay? And it's going to put it into this variable called name. Okay? So let's give it a try. Let's see here. Bring this up. File new. File save as. And we'll call this lesson4.py. Forget about that. And just go here for P and py. There we go. Save. Okay. So name equals input. Now we don't want to say prompt, okay? Well, prompt is just the default. What I'm trying to say is prompt the user for something, okay? So input, tell me your name. Okay. Now what it's going to do is it's going to put on the screen, tell me your name, and it's going to wait until you put in a name, and then it's going to take the output and store it inside this variable called name. So let's test it. Print name. Okay. And let's also try something that we learned earlier. Print hello name. How are you? Okay, look what I've done here. This is a string. Okay, and we learned about the plus sign. Pluses take two strings. Now the input will always get string. Okay, now this is true for Python 3. Okay, not for Python 2. That's one of the things that changed. Okay, but we're only going to learn Python 3. So input always brings in a string. So name is a string. So a string plus a string we can add together. Remember, it's not going to add any spaces. That's why I put a space here. Otherwise, it's all going to run in together. And then add another string. That's why I put a space here, because otherwise it's going to put the end of the last name, the end of the name, and put H right next to each other. Okay, how are you? So hopefully, as long as I didn't make any mistakes, it's going to say, hello, Marcus, how are you? Okay, so let's find out. Let's see. Okay. And we called this lesson 4. So Python lesson4.py Marcus. You see this doesn't look very good, so we'll have to change that. Marcus. Hello, Marcus. How are you? Again, grammar, English. I shouldn't put a capital H here, but again, that's just making it pretty. All right. So, tell me your name. I'm going to put a colon. I'm going to add a space. Okay. So there we go. And I'm going to. Now, I don't know the grammar. I'm sorry. Yes, I'm an American, but my English is not up to snuff. Or I'm not sure about the correct idiom, but anyway, I think there's a comma here. I'm not sure. Ask your English teacher. Do not learn English from me, okay? You can learn math and you can learn programming, but not English, okay? All right. Just remember, not everybody from America is great at English, just like not every Filipino is great at the Philippine language, okay? Same thing I had to tell these Chinese. Is every Chinese person great at Chinese? No. Okay, so let's try it again. There we go. Much better. Okay, looks much better. Hello, Marcus. How are you? Okay. Again, your boss might tell you exactly how it should look on the input and on the output. Okay. Otherwise, you're going to have to make it look pretty. Okay. But looking pretty is something I don't care about. Okay. I'm what's called a back-end programmer. Okay. I'm the one who writes the functions, and then we have another programmer that would be the front end. They make the screen look beautiful, and they make the output. Oh, it must go rows here, etc. Okay? So usually big companies have the two separate programmers. Okay? One is the visual designer, what you see on the out part of the screen, and then on the back end you had the boring programming stuff. Well, that's what I like. Okay? That's the writing the code. That's what you're telling what to do. For example, do you go off to a database, get some data? Do you get some stuff off the internet? Okay, etc. All the work, that's the stuff I do. Okay, I give back the information to the front end designer, and they make it all pretty. Okay, all right. So that's input. Input will always return a string. Okay. Now, let's say you wanted to ask my age. No. Anyway, age equals. Now remember, input always return a string, but we don't want age to be a string. We want it to be an integer. So there's another function called int, and we wrap it around the input. So tell me your age. Okay. So again, this part right here is going to give me a string containing my age. Okay. So don't tell anybody, but I'm 106. Okay. So it's going to be 106 in double quotes. And then the int is going to say, okay, I'm going to remove the double quotes, and I'm going to take the number inside of it and put it in age. Okay? And now, pretend I'm a woman, and I am going to say, print, I am, comma, age minus 30 years old. Now, I don't need a space here because remember, comma adds a space. Okay. All right. You know, that's what women do. They always lie about their age, right? Okay. So, remember, one thing to be careful about, that's one thing I like about Notepad++ and these other IDEs. That's your development environments, is that they will show you where the parentheses end, so that way you don't make mistakes like this. Okay. Whoops, this one doesn't have a closing parentheses. Okay. All right, so let's save it, and we can run it. Marcus, I'm 106, so I'm going to tell you I am 76 years old. Okay. All right. So that takes care of that. So that's for integers. Now, let's ask another question. My height equals. Now, the height here in China, most people will give it in either centimeters or meters. So let's assume they're going to give it in meters. Okay. Well, that means you're going to give a decimal, which means a float. So you're going to take float, input, tell me your height. Okay. And print, I am, again, I don't need the extra space, and height, meters tall. There we go. All right. So this time I am 185 centimeters or 1.85 meters. Okay. So when I take the height, it's going to be a string, 1.85. And then it's going to change it into a float. It's going to rip away those quote marks and take the number, and it's going to put it into the variable height. So then I can print it. Okay. All right, so we save that, run it again. Marcus, how old are you? 106. And then height, I forgot to add some space here. Oh well, 1.85. Okay, 1.85 meters tall. Okay. Now, at the moment, there's nothing I can do about this space here. I can't make it 1.85 m without the space. Okay? Later on, we'll learn how to do that. But right now, there's nothing I can do about that. Okay? Okay. Let's see. Oh, I forgot to show you here. There's your int, and there's your float. Okay? Okay, so make sure you understand. Now, there is going to be some problems. For example, what if you asked a child this? You know, some children may say 5 years old, 6 years old, but some might say 5.5. Well, what's going to happen if I put in 5.5? Well, let's find out. Marcus, tell me your age. 5.5. Error. Okay? You told it was an int. You lied to the computer. Okay? And the computer doesn't like lies. So, if you tell it to get an int, it better be an int, or it's going to get an error. All right. Now, later, I'm going to show you how to deal with this error. Now, some programming books, some instructors want to tell you immediately how to deal with that. I'm not one of those. I prefer making you learn a little bit more Python, make you more comfortable with writing code before we worry about catching errors and dealing with errors. Okay? It's just the way I do things. Okay? I'm not saying it's the right way, but I just prefer getting you built up on some Python before worrying about, catching errors. For right now, let's assume the world is perfect. Okay? Isn't that a nice dream? Okay? So, in the beginning, we're going to assume the world is perfect. Okay? Don't worry about errors. Okay? About catching errors. Okay? If you get an error, that's fine. Okay? Just make sure you learn from your mistake and do it again. Okay? So for right now, we're just going to assume that we're not going to worry about catching errors. Okay? So here, normally if we're writing some code, I'm going to, do a little catching and say, oops, you didn't listen to my instructions. I told you I want an integer. So please give me an integer. Okay? All right. Or I may round it for them. Okay? You told me you're 4.5, I'm going to round it to 4. In math, if it's 0.5, we round to the even number. Okay? So 4.5 will go to 4. 5.5 will go to 6. That's the new standard, and the reason why is because otherwise you're going to be rounding up all the time. For example, if you rounded 1.5, 2.5 all the way up to 9.5, you're going to get out of balance too much. But if you do it round to the evens, it would come out very close to even. Okay? All right. Anyway, that's enough about that. Okay. So, I do have a little bit of homework for you. Practicing with writing commands and writing some variables. Okay? Again, the class info with the homework is on this website, getthesolution.com/YouTube. I suggest you give it a try. It shouldn't take you very long to do it. Okay? Thank you very much, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.